All righty, here we go. One more time. Welcome once again to Escaping Dystopia. My name is Wa. This is episode 116, May 6th, 2022. We'll do a quick little sound check over here, make sure, see what's going on. Boop-a-doop, boop, boop-a-doop. So, some slightly large political news this week, right? We got to see. There we go. What exactly this conservative majority of the Supreme Court is going to be doing to the United States. So what happened is, to catch up on the news real quick, a leaked draft opinion from the Supreme Court striking down Roe versus Wade came out this week. That's mainly what we're going to be talking about on this show tonight in a number of different ways. One of the things that's pretty wild about it for me is that the folks who have been campaigning to take away this right from all Americans for the last 50 years, and you need to understand this right is going to be taken away from everybody in the country. It's not like it's just being taken away from women. Men have never had this right. They've never had the question of right to control their own bodies. The United States as a historical entity had a huge, ridiculously huge, massive blind spot for both women and non-white males at its founding, and has been a progressive, right, expansion of the same rights that, that white privilege assumed everyone had from the get-go. Now we're seeing a retraction of those rights, and this is why it's such a big deal, and why it really has clarified and exposed a lot of the stuff I've been talking about on the show for years now, and that you need to understand what Republicans are, what they're planning to do with the government, what they would like to do, and what they'll do now that they have this power. For folks, it's pretty wild. I was going to do a little bit of a skit here, and we'll kind of get to it. Maybe if we get a couple viewers or not, but folks don't understand how to game this out a little bit. What happened? See, a lot of people on the right, a lot of the quote right intellectually bankrupt intellectuals have always been on the idea that this was some kind of thing that you could just simply, just make it illegal, and then we'll let it all sort out and things will be fine. So making abortions illegal, much like in our drug war, it's not going to make them go away. It's just simply going to make them more dangerous. And more difficult to obtain and more expensive. The whole process of forcing something that is a very natural part of the human condition underground does exactly that. The concept of abortion throughout human history has existed for a long time because, again, it happens all the time. I've talked about this in my shows before, but you'll never hear on a lot of, especially conservative media ever, talking about the complexities that are involved in reproduction. And the folks who have issues with, and that's the thing, man, even on the other end, like folks who have trouble getting pregnant. I guess apparently this whole ball tanning thing is a big part of that. So maybe that's kind of the idea here, that they want to force women to carry these babies because their sperm counts are going down. It gets really weird, but you got to understand, just making something illegal isn't going to stop it, right? They have to enforce this. And what you need to understand on that, and this is where we're going to get to our first little bit here, is, well, this is what happens, right? A woman goes into court, and judge looking down at her says, hey, man, we need to understand what happened here because we're really concerned about this. I have a record here that shows me that at one time you were pregnant. Now you're not. And we need to know what happened. So it's, again, there's just a few questions we'd like to ask. And you need, again, man, we're here protecting your life and the lives of the baby that, what happened to it? See, when you make abortion illegal and you call it murder and you investigate, and this is what's happening, by the way, in Arkansas, and it happened in a bunch of other states. There'll be, again, like when the Supreme Court struck down the Voting Rights Act, all these southern states had laws ready to go to take advantage of that retraction of rights, of the protections from the Republican Supreme Court. So you're going to have this enforcement immediately to try and do this. We've already seen in Missouri bills to make it illegal to cross state lines, which again, from the paradigm of taking the notion that this healthcare option, which is what abortion is, and I know that makes people really uncomfortable to think how other people who aren't them, who aren't even the same gender as them, will use the freedom that the Constitution previously provided. But anyway, as these people make these decisions and go forward and decide that what they're doing, these other people are doing, are wrong, you have to enforce that. And you have to say that, if you're going to say that this abortion is murder, then this state that says, well, again, in that same paradigm, why'd you cross state lines to go kill somebody, ma'am? Can you explain that to us? Like the notion that you're going to be able to go across and continue to enjoy freedoms where the fundamental freedom is defined by a state line, and there's not other restrictions of travel between those zones of rights. People don't really quite understand. They have not gained this out. Ma'am, did you go out to the bar? I see here on your phone records that we subpoenaed that you, after you, apparently you had gone out to the bar on one night and you had relations with someone you wasn't married to, and then you bought the pregnancy test here a few weeks later, but after that you went to a bar again, ma'am, and now you're not pregnant. Can you explain that? See, every time, everything they have to go into, everything, every single one. Now, of course, you know how the law is enforced in the South, right? Oh, Charlene, I heard you took care of things. Yeah, you went up to Colorado. Okay, cool. Okay. All right, moving on. Next lady. All right, Chantel, what happened to you, ma'am? I heard you lost a baby too. Did you pray hard enough, do you think, to save that baby? You need to understand, again, how things work in the South. People, all these like Republican colonists who live in big blue cities and haven't covered, these state houses in the South about what Republicans are doing there now and what's happened over the last 10 years. The Tea Party, again, this band of just old racist jerks, completely took over the state parties, right? That they've kind of bubbled up and then eventually pushed their guy into the Oval Office because they dominated on the ground. So you're going to move to this thing where all these states have these laws to really enforce these morals, these religious morals. Because again, if you're calling this murder, you have to investigate every single pregnancy that doesn't come to term as a potential murder case, which is going to take a lot of cops talking to a lot of women. So you're going to have a very selective enforcement of some very powerful laws that affect everyone. And if you think for a second now that the Republican Party is going to stop at that, right? And they're like, oh, gay marriage is safe. Oh, it's not. There's no idea that this Republican base can be like, oh, whew, abortion. Yeah, we got it. It's not legal anymore. Man. Yeah, some states will make it legal, but we'll be fine with that. We're not going to try and force them to stop doing things that we've fought forever to stop. So it's not going to end here. It's going to get nasty. The reason my show is called what it is because now we just put our entire population under a forced birth paradigm until those states change it. So it looks like we got the rest of the family home right now. So we're going to go ahead and take a little break and then see if we can do some more stuff later. But thanks for dropping by. I wanted to cover this real quick. You need to understand that the sea change that we've seen is going to be extreme. Anyway, thanks for dropping by. Quick little show for you today, and maybe we can talk about this more later.